They say every town has a place people avoid, not because of what they see there, but because of what they hear. Whispers in the walls, footsteps where no one walks, and shadows that move when the lights are off. At Hollow Pines Motel, the whispers always come from room 6, and no guest who's ever stayed the night in that room has checked out alive the next morning. I had been driving for 12 hours straight, exhausted, hungry, and too broke to book anything better than a roadside motel. The glowing neon sign that read Hollow Pines Motel, vacancy, felt like salvation. Inside, the lobby smelled of dust and cigarettes, the kind of place that hadn't seen a renovation in decades. A woman at the counter looked up from her ancient ledger book. "Checking in?" she asked, her voice flat. "Yeah, just one night," I said, sliding over a crumpled ID and the last of my cash. Her eyes flickered when she saw the bills. Then, slowly, she picked up a brass key hanging on the wall. The number on the tag was etched deep. 6. Room 6, she said. End of the hall. For a moment, I thought I saw hesitation in her expression, like she wanted to say something more. But she slid the key across the counter and looked back down at her ledger, as if she hadn't seen me at all. The hallway was dim, lit by buzzing fluorescent lights. The carpet smelled faintly of mildew. By the time I reached the door to room 6, my exhaustion had turned into a strange unease, like my body knew something my brain didn't. I pushed the door open. The room was ordinary. A double bed with a faded quilt, a small dresser, an old TV, and a window that looked out onto the dark forest behind the motel. But it felt wrong. The air was colder here, heavy, as if the room itself was holding its breath. I tried to shake it off. I told myself I was tired, imagining things. I threw my bag on the chair, kicked off my shoes, and collapsed onto the bed. That's when I heard it. A whisper, soft, almost too faint to notice, coming from the walls. At first I thought it was the pipes or maybe the TV in the next room. But then the whisper grew louder, closer. It sounded like a voice, but not a human one. Words I couldn't understand, slipping under my skin like ice water. And then, the shadow moved. On the far wall, the shape of a man stretched tall and thin, even though there was nothing in the room to cast it. It shifted once, slowly, as if it had noticed me. I froze on the bed, staring at that wall. The shadow didn't match me. It was taller, thinner, its arms too long, its head tilted at an angle no person could hold. I rubbed my eyes, telling myself it had to be a trick. Maybe the headlights of a car passing outside. Maybe I was just so tired I was hallucinating. But then it moved again. The head snapped toward me, and I swear, the whisper in the walls grew clearer, like words half-formed just beneath my understanding. A language I didn't know, yet my bones seemed to recognize. I grabbed the TV remote and flicked it on, flooding the room with noise. The shadow vanished instantly, leaving me with nothing but static and a too bright picture of some late-night infomercial. For a while, I kept the TV blaring and tried to convince myself it was fine, that I was fine. But sleep has a way of dragging you under, even when you don't want it to. When I opened my eyes again, the TV was off. The room was silent, and the shadow was back. This time, it wasn't on the wall. It was standing in the corner. I could see it, black and featureless, like someone had cut the shape of a man out of the air. My chest tightened. My body screamed to move, to run, but I couldn't. It was like something heavy pressed me into the bed. Sleep paralysis, I thought desperately. just sleep paralysis. But then it stepped forward. The sound was wrong, not a footstep, more like the creak of wood, the groan of a house settling. But it was coming from inside the carpet, inside the walls, inside everything. And with every step, the whisper grew louder, closer. It bent down over me, its head lowering, until I could feel the cold of it brush my cheek. Then it whispered directly into my ear, not in that strange language, not anymore. This time it spoke in English. It said, "You shouldn't have checked in." My heart hammered so violently, I thought it might burst. The whisper still clung to my ear, echoing in my skull. "You shouldn't have checked in." I forced my body to move, kicking off the heavy paralysis. My legs stumbled off the bed and hit the floor, knees weak like they didn't belong to me. The shadow didn't chase me. It only stood there, head cocked, as if watching. I fumbled for my bag, snatched it up, and ran for the door. My fingers shook as I turned the knob. Locked. I hadn't locked it. I knew I hadn't. "Come on, come on," I hissed, twisting, yanking, slamming my shoulder into the wood. The knob wouldn't budge. Behind me, the floor creaked, slow, deliberate. The shadow was moving. I didn't think. I just hurled the lamp from the nightstand at the window. Glass shattered, spraying cold night air into the room. Without hesitation, I climbed through, cutting my hand on the jagged edges as I tumbled onto the gravel outside. The forest behind the motel loomed tall and black, but I didn't care. I just needed distance between me and that room. I sprinted across the parking lot, shoes slipping on wet asphalt. My car sat under a flickering streetlight, my one hope of escape. I yanked the door open, shoved the key into the ignition. Click. Nothing. I tried again. Click. My stomach dropped. I knew the battery had been fine when I pulled in. I'd driven for hours without a single issue. And then, in the rearview mirror, I saw it. Room 6's curtain. It was pulled open, and the shadow was standing in the window, staring directly at me. I bolted from the car, running toward the road. The motel's neon sign buzzed above me, casting its sickly green light. The letters flickered, and for a split second, they didn't read Hollow Pines Motel anymore. They read, "No exit." The highway stretched empty in both directions, but the deeper I ran, the stranger it became. The road didn't feel like it was moving under me. The motel stayed in sight no matter how far I went, like the world itself was looping me back. And then, behind me, I heard footsteps. Not just one set, dozens, all whispering in unison. "You shouldn't have checked in." I ran until my lungs felt like fire. The road beneath my feet blurred. Sweat stung my eyes, and my chest begged me to stop. But I didn't dare, not with those whispers chasing me, rising in volume, overlapping, until they were a chorus that clawed at my mind. Finally, I stumbled to a halt. My legs nearly gave out. I bent over, gasping for breath, and forced myself to look up. The motel was still there, not behind me, not far away, right in front of me. The glowing green neon hummed, the cracked parking lot stretched out, and room 6's curtains swayed gently as if mocking me. I'd run in a circle. "No," I whispered, clutching my head. "No, no, no." A low rumble vibrated through the ground. I froze. The asphalt under my sneakers trembled, faint at first, then stronger, like something enormous shifting beneath the road. The motel sign flickered again. "No exit." And then the road itself began to change. The lines on the pavement twisted, curving into impossible shapes, winding back toward the motel no matter which direction I looked. The forest leaned closer too, trees stretching unnaturally, their shadows reaching across the asphalt like fingers. I tried running again, this time into the woods. Branches whipped at my face, roots caught my shoes, but I didn't stop, till I realized that the trees weren't trees anymore. Their bark was edged with faces, eyes bulging, mouths frozen mid-scream, their hollow sockets dripping black sap. Each one turned to watch me as I stumbled deeper, their whispers joining the chorus behind me. And still, always, the motel appeared through the gaps in the trees, its shape bending reality to keep me tethered. I fell to my knees, clutching the dirt. That's when I heard the door to room 6 creaking open. My head snapped up, and there it was, the room, waiting, its doorway spilling darkness that seemed deeper than night. And out of that darkness, it stepped, not one shadow, dozens, thin, twisted silhouettes crawling out of the room, their whispers slithering across the trees and road like smoke. Some walked, some crawled, some dragged themselves on limbs bent the wrong way, all of them moving toward me. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. Then one shadow broke away from the rest, taller, darker, with arms stretching down nearly to the ground. It leaned close, its faceless head inches from mine, and it whispered the words that made my blood turn to ice. "You've already checked out," the whisper drilled into my skull, those 4 words ringing louder than my own thoughts. "You've already checked out." I staggered backward, tripping over roots, my hands clawing at the ground. The forest spun around me, the shadows closing in like a tide. "I'm not dead," I screamed, though even as I said it, doubt curdled inside me. My voice sounded distant, hollow, as if it didn't belong to me anymore. The tall shadow tilted its head, the gesture disturbingly human. Then, with a slow, deliberate motion, it lifted one of its long black fingers and pointed. I followed its gesture. Behind them, room 6 still yawned open, the doorway pulsing with a darkness that wasn't just absence of light, but something alive. Inside, I saw myself. I was lying on the bed, motionless, eyes open, skin pale. The quilt I'd thrown aside when I ran was still tangled around my legs. The broken lamp lay on the floor where I'd knocked it, and my chest wasn't moving. "No." My voice cracked. "No, that's not me. That can't be me." The shadows whispered together, their voices layering like 1,000 dry leaves in the wind. "You never left the room." The forest tilted. The road behind me melted. The motel seemed to expand, swallowing the world. The faces in the trees screamed silently, their mouths stretching wider as the shadows surged closer. I tried to run, but there was nowhere left to go. Every step took me closer to room 6. The motel wasn't a building anymore. It was everything. And when the tall shadow's hand closed around my wrist, cold and heavy as stone, I didn't fight, because I realized the truth. I had checked in, and in Hollow Pines Motel, no one ever checks out.